What's going on, everyone? I'm the OPJellicent, and I'm going to be talking about my matchup for week number 9 of season number 3 in the Ultimate Battle League. My opponent this week is Automatic, coach of the Nuzleafs. My opponents this week and next week both need to beat me to make playoffs, and for that reason, despite the fact that I'm 7-1 and secured for playoffs, I'm still going to be putting in a good amount of effort into these teams because it would be lame for somebody else to miss playoffs just because I decided not to care about my games and lost, so I'm still going to be putting in a good amount of effort. You can see Otto's roster over on the right of your screen. You can see my 6 Pokemon at the top. Let's talk about Otto's roster first, starting things off with the Mega Aggron. Definitely a good response to some of my different Pokemon here, most notably the Mega Latios, the Weavile, as well as the Granbull. It can pretty much sit in front of those. Now, Mega Latios can run a hidden power to hit it super effectively, but even through Filter, that's not even doing too much. Weavile right here can run Low Kick, and that can do like a good 40%, but I really need chip damage on the Mega Aggron, and you'll see that I have a lot of ways to just pressure that this week and make sure that my primary win condition can win me the game when Mega Aggron is weakened. So that's a big thing. It is also one of his stealth rockers on the team. I believe it's that and then Mamoswine are his 2 stealth rockers, so that's something to keep in mind as well. Now, thankfully, one of my best defoggers, Rotom Heat, as you guys will see, can defog in front of the Mega Aggron, so that's very great right here. His second Pokemon is Aromatisse. Aromatisse actually has a niche matchup right here. I don't really know much about it, but I know it gets like Calm Mind and whatnot, so Calm Mind is something that I do have to take into account. I personally don't think it'll come just because it struggles to break the Rotom Heat. It does get Heal Bell though, so it doesn't really have to worry about Toxic, but even just Cobalion and Crobat with their stab attacks can just destroy that thing, so I wouldn't be surprised if Aromatisse is just left off the board, but we'll see. Maybe he'll bring that calm mindset. I did prep a little bit for that. He has Conkeldurr, which Conkeldurr, like a Fizdef variant, can be a really good Weavile response. I do have a dedicated Conkeldurr check on my team as well, so I'm not really too worried about it, but I do need to weaken that thing as much as possible into range of my Ice Shard from Weavile, because if I want to win with Weavile, which spoilers, that is my win condition, I need to make sure he's in range of that, because Mach Punch can go ahead and out-prioritize me. Drapion is one of his better responses to Mega Latios, but if he scouts my matches, he'll know that I've run Earthquake with a mixed set quite a few times this season, and that's very well something I can do for the Drapion right here. Drapion, like a bulky variant, can somewhat take on my Weavile as well, but Icicle Crash is going to dent it every time, so I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't really bring that as his Weavile response and opts for something like Mega Aggron or Conkeldurr instead. But I think it'll most likely be his Mega Latios response if he doesn't want other Pokemon getting pressured by that. Electabuzz has a very interesting matchup right here. It's a good Manaphy check, but it really doesn't break through Pokemon like Hippowdon, Mega Latios. Even my Rotom Heat right here can go ahead and sit in front of that, so for that reason, I wouldn't be surprised if he ran like a Toxic variant, maybe with like Volt Switch and then Thunderbolt. I know it gets Signal Beam, so that can go ahead and help out against my Mega Latios too, but if it's not Choice Specs, it's doing like no damage to Mega Latios anyway, and I can just roost the damage off, so it's really limited right here, and I don't really see it coming. Flygon is another Pokemon on his team. Flygon is not a Z-move user, so I don't really have to worry too much about it. It could be threatening with the Dragon Dance set, since I don't really have speed control for it. My best way of checking it would be my priority Ice Shard from Weavile, but Granbull, which is on the team this week, can go ahead and take that on just fine. Even neutral Iron Tail, because obviously I'll Intimidate it, doesn't really do too much at all, so I don't really have to worry about that. Mamoswine's a big threat. Ground plus Ice Tap can definitely do a lot of work. However, there are a few Pokemon that can sponge those hits, most notably being Manaphy, as well as my Rotom Heat. Now, it does get Life Orb Earthquake, which can 2-hit KO a lot of Manaphy variants, and it does get access to Stone Edge, so those are all things that I did have to keep in mind. And I think it's more likely he goes with an Adamant Mamoswine right here, just because he really has no reason to run Jolly. It doesn't really creep anything. Adamant would creep everything that he wants to creep anyway, so that's kind of fine right here. And I did speed creep Adamant Mama with a lot of my Pokemon, so ideally he doesn't run Jolly and go over the speed a little bit. That would definitely suck, but ideally he goes with that Adamant nature. Slowking and Tangrowth, I'll talk about these two together just because they're like his bulky regenerator core right here. I have great ways of breaking it, most notably Manaphy with Tail Glow and then Ice Beam and Energy Ball. Mega Latios with Thunderbolt and Ice Beam can go ahead and do it as well. Weavile with Knockoff and Icicle Crash. So I have great ways of getting through this regenerator core. I'm not really overly threatened about it. Tauros has a good speed tier against my team. It's definitely nice at 110. Speed Tang with my Mega Latios. I don't really know much about it. I'm pretty sure it's very strong. I think it gets Sheer Force with like Body Slam or whatever, but I wouldn't be surprised if defensive Granbull could just sponge those hits anyway. We'll see. I'll probably run some calcs during the game depending on what the scenario is, and if I want to sack off a Pokemon and not have Granbull take damage, for example, if the Conkeldurr is still healthy, I may have to play around Tauros in another way, so Tauros is something I have to keep in mind right here, but it's not really stopping my win con. It doesn't have that speed tier, and I feel like it's, though, if it's Choice Scarf, it's not going to do any damage anyway, right? Just to be a Life Orb Sheer Force to be any sort of threat. And then finally Z Tornadus Therian, which is one of his best forms of speed control against my team. It is still outpaced by Weavile though, which is my best win condition against his team. I think he's going to know this. He could potentially run like a Yachi Berry set with Superpower, just to be able to lure my Weavile, because he knows that's what I'm probably going to try to win with. However, I think a Z-move option is very good right here too. He could run like Z Dark Pulse just to hit my Mega Latios. Flying EMZ is just all around good coverage against my team. However, it really struggles against Rotom Heat anyway, but he can get U-turn momentum on that Pokemon. So that is just something I do have to keep in mind right here. And yeah, that is going to be Otto's roster. Let's go ahead and talk about my 6 Pokemon. Alright, starting off my team this week, we have Greed the Weavile. I did mention multiple times when going over Otto's roster, this is my best win condition against him. It's a really basic set. We have Muscle Band right here because I don't really like Life Orb on a win condition. Taking chip damage just seems unnecessary, and Expert Belt could have been cool, but I don't really hit that many Pokemon super effectively. It was like 5 or 6. I figured Muscle Band would just be all around better right here. Ice Shard Priority does really well against his team, most notably against the Flygon right here. And Dual Stab right here can really just pressure the Regenerator Core a lot, which I really value a lot right here. I have enough speed for the Tornadus T, obviously, max attack, and then just a little bit of HP right here. Really standard spread. I just have Lokic on there for the Mega Aggron too. I do have to keep in mind the bulky Conkeldurr, like I said, but I do have a great way of switching into the Conkeldurr if he does use that as his way to revenge Greed my Weavile, because I think Weavile is going to be picking up multiple kills this week, right? That's the ideal. Lokic also hits the Mamoswine, so ideally it can go ahead and work out. I'm not going to play it recklessly. I got to scout for his Choice Scarfers and make sure Greed doesn't end up going down too early. Let's go ahead and talk about my second Pokemon. Alright, my next Pokemon right here is my first pivot, which is Roy the Rotom Heat. This is my defogger for this game, as well as a Pokemon that can switch into Mamoswine with a Chardy Berry. I did mention Mamoswine can get Stone Edge. I think he's going to run an Adamant Nature, so I can switch in. Even if he predicts it and goes for Stone Edge, because he's probably going to be Adamant, I can go ahead and use my speed investment right here to outspeed him in Will-O-Wisp. And even if he goes for Rocks, I can just go ahead and defog those anyways. So this is basically a dedicated Mamoswine counter this week. However, it can pivot into a couple other Pokemon, most notably Tornadus T for sure. There are some Z movesets that can be very scary. Z Dark Pulse does over 50%. Fightinium Z with Focus Blast can actually knock me out after Stealth Rock, so that's definitely scary in itself right here, but that's just something I have to keep in mind. I can also pivot into Tangrowth, but Sleep Powder would definitely be very annoying. The worst case scenario would be if he Sleep Powders me, this is my defogger, and then he gets up rocks later. I want to make sure I don't end up in that scenario. We of course have Volt Switch on here, and then Overheat. It's actually another Pokemon that breaks the Regenerator Core quite nicely. We got the Electric move, and then the Fire move for the Tangrowth right here, so that's great. We also have a lot of bulk just for Flygon. I can take like a Stone Edge from +1 Flygon thanks to the Chardy Berry. With my bit of defense right there, I can take a +1 Outrage too, and then Will-O-Wisp can just go ahead and get rid of that threat. However, I'm not really worried about Flygon, right? It's not stopping my win condition at all. This is mainly here for the Mamoswine, so that's the big idea. You can also go ahead and switch into the Mega Aggron quite well, so that's going to be Roy this week. Let's go ahead and talk about my Cobalion. Alright, and running out the first half of my team right here, we have Pride the Cobalion, which is running a setup variant with Stealth Rocks right here. I figured that Close Combat and Iron Head is good coverage, despite the fact that it doesn't really hit Slowking at all, because +2 All-Out Pummeling can still do a huge dent to that Pokemon, and Slowking isn't really stopping my win condition being Weavile anyways, so I'm not really all too worried about that. I have a lot of HP, well, a lot of defense and a bit of HP on here just so I can sponge some Earthquakes. For example, Choice Scarf Mamoswine's Earthquake and I can always eat, which is great right here, even if it's Adamant Choice Scarf, and then I can also take 2 Scarf Earthquakes from the Drapion. This is my most likely Drapion switch-in, so that's definitely something I wanted to be able to sponge quite nicely. I can take the 2 Earthquakes, Fightinium Z is going to blow that away. If it doesn't knock it out, it will put it in range of my Weavile's Psychical Crash, which is very valuable right here, so I am quite happy about that. This thing just does have to watch out for the Tornadus T. I can get up rocks on Mega Aggron too. I invested this to take 2 Earthquakes for Mega Aggron. Fire Punch is doing like no damage, so ideally that scenario can go ahead and work out. Once again, bulky Conkeldurr is a Pokemon that could potentially take this on. Even the +2 Fightinium Z sometimes doesn't OHKO if he's very Fizz-Def, so I have to use my other pivot, which you guys will see when I go over Granbull, to take that on. That is one of his better ways of revenging this, but hopefully this can go ahead and wall break and get up those rocks. Let's go ahead and talk about my Manaphy. Okay, and starting off the second half of the team right here, we have Ultimate the Manaphy, which is running a Tail Glow set. I'm pretty sure this is only like the second or third time I'm running Tail Glow, despite bringing it to so many games. I know I ran Assault Vest twice, I ran Choice Scarf last week against Ultra players, so Manaphy's bringing a lot of different sets right here, but this week we do have the Tail Glow Iapapa Berry. The Iapapa Berry isn't really, fit to the EVs right here. I just figured it could be useful. I couldn't really find another item because I invested this to take Choice Specs Thunderbolt from Electabuzz anyway, so I don't really have to worry about that, doing too much work. And if I do take that hit, the Iapapa Berry can pop off and just get the berry back anyway. So I guess in a way it is, kind of EV'd to take advantage of the berry right here. But we have Tail Glow 3 attacks. This is a third Pokemon that can break the Regenerator Core right here. We have the Energy Ball plus Ice Beam, which just blows away the Regen Core after the Tail Glow right here. I have enough Spit F to take Flyneem Z from Tornadus even after Stealth Rock's damage, and I can go ahead and hit that with Ice Beam too. Just because if that is the Yachi Berry set, I want to be able to break that for my Weavile win condition, so that is going to be quite vital. Now obviously he can't run Yachi Berry and Z moves, so that is something I do have to keep in mind right here, but I just want to ensure that I can take Hurricanes for days and break that Yachi Berry. This is also another Pokemon that can sponge hits from Mamoswine. I have a lot of HP, max HP right here, and then a good amount of defense with a bold nature, so if he is Choice Scarf from Mamoswine, I can go ahead and take 2 Earthquakes even after Stealth Rock's damage, which is quite nice right here, because if he is Chople Berry on that for my Cobalion as well as my Weavile's Low Kick, that is definitely something I want weakened right here. So this is really just another wall breaker, sort of like Cobalion, but it doesn't have to, set up Stealth Rocks for a turn. Cobalion might be forced into that role just to chip things down for Weavile. Manaphy can go ahead and set up the Tail Glow on multiple Pokemon such as Mega Aggron, Conkeldurr, Flygon, Mamoswine, Tauros, even Tornadus, and be good to go right here. So ideally this can go ahead and wall break. Let's go ahead and talk about that Conkeldurr switch in. Okay, the second to last Pokemon I have right here is Granbull, the Granbull. Once again, a very standard EV spread right here, just max HP, max defense with a bold nature. I want to chip down Conkeldurr, and I figured Rocky Helmet Granbull would be one of my easiest ways of doing that right here. I just need like a couple of Rocky Helmet hits in it just to get it in range of my Icicle Crash. Now obviously I want him in range of Ice Shard ideally, but any chip damage on Conkeldurr is good right here, because between all the hazards chip, so many Rocky Helmet hits, it'll eventually get put in range of that attack right here, as well as potentially my Cobalion's attack right there too. I have a feeling if he might be lured into using Conkeldurr as a Cobalion resist, I can go ahead and wear him down with this and then knock it out with the Fightinium Z from Cobalion, and then Weavile can just have a field day against his team. I have Heal Bell right here. There isn't really a particular Pokemon on his team that likes to throw off statuses, and most notably it's just Sleep Powder Tangrowth, but I figured just random Scald Burn, some Slowking, especially on my Weavile if I end up not knocking him out. For example, if he's Colbur Berry and Scalds me, I want to be able to Heal Bell that off, the burn. Of course, I have Super Fang on here too, just to hit Mega Aggron. I figured, it was pretty obvious why that was on there. Mega Aggron is going to be one of his better switch-ins to this Pokemon. I want to get 50% on that on the switch-in, because I want to get that in range of Low Kick as soon as possible, so if I can get the 50% off, that would be great right here. Toxic is something I can go ahead and wear down Aromatisse too. I did mention I'm scared of Calm Mind Aromatisse. Now, it does get Heal Bell though, so I have to spam Toxic and then start Super Fanging it down, but obviously that's just a failsafe. I want to use Cobalion or potentially my Tail Glow Manaphy as a better way of breaking through the Aromatisse if necessary right here, but this Pokemon also helps out with Flygon, because it's not a Z-move user. I don't have to run Babiri Berry for like Z Iron Tail, so I can Sleek with the Rocky Helmet right here and switch into Flygon quite nicely, but it's mainly for Conkeldurr, of course. Let's go ahead and talk about my final Pokemon. And rounding out the team right here, we have Gateway the Mega Latios, which is running a Roost 3 attacks variant. This is my primary switch into the Electabuzz. I can take 2 Specs HP Ices. If he is Signal Beam, he cannot go ahead and OHKO me with that. I can outspeed him due to my speed investment, because Choice Spec Signal Beam is like the only threatening set with the Spit F that I have, and Psyshock's just going to go ahead and OHKO him due to Electabuzz's terrible Spit F. I don't really fear a Violite, because I can just roost any damage that thing wants to do off. He does have good ways of threatening this out, most notably Choice Scarf Flygon, Mega Aggron, and Mamoswine, but those are all Pokemon that I switch into using my pivots such as Granbull and Rotom Heat right here, so I don't really have to worry about that. I was very torn about whether I wanted to run Thunderbolt for the Slowking and make this another Pokemon that can break the Regen Core, or run Earthquake for the Drapion and go ahead and wear that down for my Weavile. I opted for Thunderbolt because I wanted a Pokemon that could sponge a hit from Trick Room Slowking, which is one of his better win cons right here, and Thunderbolt that down, because if he has offensive Slowking, Thunderbolt can't 2-hit KO it, so that's going to be very valuable right here, and there are rolls where I can take 2 Ice Beams from Modest Max Special Attack Slowking as well, so this just gives me a failsafe for Trick Room Slowking in case I need it right here. I figured I have other ways of responding to Drapion. If I'm predicting Drapion to come in on this, I can always double out into something that threatens it, such as my Cobalion or Manaphy right here, but I really needed the Thunderbolt for Slowking right here, because I don't want that being too big of a threat. Now, Calm Mind Slowking is definitely a threat, but in that case, I can just go ahead and switch out into my Manaphy and take it on with that using Tail Glow plus Energy Ball. Weavile can go ahead and pressure that with the knockoff as well, so on that rare scenario, I can go ahead and forego the Thunderbolt right here and have other responses, but the main thing right here is it switches into the Electabuzz. I don't want that getting out of hand right here, considering the Electric Stab plus Focus Blast, which I'm pretty sure it gets, if not Drain Punch. It does it very well against my team, so that's going to be my build this week. Let me know what you guys think. The match will be going live tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern, and I'll see you all then. Later.